Hey folks, so as usual in this video I will be talking about gematria. For those unaware, with gematria, letters equal numbers. Also in this video I'll talk about the Kabbalistic and the biblical tree of life and how this connects with the alphanumeric buttons on your telephone. Let's start with the number 233. Using the Latin Agrippa or Jewish gematria cipher, the word gematria has a value of 233. And by the way, I'm going to show the cipher breakdown for the most part, but you can find most of these ciphers at gematrinator.com. As said, gematria has a gematria value of 233. If we use the so-called satanic cipher, the word phone equals 233. And if you look up the etymology of the word telephone, it derives from Greek. Phone means something like distant voice. Think of all these words that have the word phone in it. It's a short list. And think about the word phonics. Phonics is the science of sound. All these words have to do with sound. Headphones, telephone, megaphone, homophone, phonics, xylophone, saxophone, microphone, speakerphone, and phonograph. So with that short list, all of those words that had the root word phone in it had to do with the communication of sound, whether it's receiving the sound, maybe you're listening to a phonographic record, or you're listening to your cell phone on a speakerphone, or you're using it to project instead of receive, you're projecting the sound. You're playing a xylophone or a saxophone, the frequencies, the notes through the air for someone else to receive, or you're speaking or singing words into a microphone. And it just brings to mind the Creator God is said to have spoken the word, the world, into existence. It's said in Genesis 1:3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. As if speaking, "Let there be light," is what actually created the light. The spoken word is very powerful. And you just think about, that's the Old Testament. You think about the New Testament in John, Gospel of John, it says, "In the beginning was the Word," capital W, by the way. The beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So this spoken word is a very, very powerful thing here. So looking at this telephone's keypad, it encodes the 233. In my mind, look at the layout. So notice most of these buttons, the ones that contain digits, most of them have letters that it shares the button with. The only digits that do not share the button with a letter is 1 and 0. We'll talk about the 1 and 0 later. 2 through 9 contain letters. Notice the top row. Which buttons contain letters? 1 does not contain a letter, so 2 buttons in that row contain letters. Below that, we have 3 buttons in that row that contain letters. Below that, we have 3 buttons in this row that contain letters. So 2, 3, and 3 in the rows. And then look at the columns. The far left, 1, 4, 7, 1 does not contain letters, so the other 2 do contain letters. So you have the 2. Next row over, you have 3 numbered buttons that contain letters, and after that, you see another 3. So 2, 3, and 3 are encoded in the layout of the columns, and then 2, 3, 3 are encoded in the layout of the rows. 2, 3, 3, like gematria. 2, 3, 3. And again, the word phone has a gematria value of 233. 233 connects with the tree of life in a few different ways. First, let's start with the phrase, the tree of life. So here we're going to use the English Composites cipher. I don't think you're going to find this on gematrinator.com anytime soon. Like I said, most of the ciphers I'll show you will find at gematrinator.com. This cipher is something that is relatively new to me. It was presented to me by Lambda. I'll leave a link or two in the description box. But this cipher represents the first batch of composite numbers. So it's kind of like the English ordinal cipher. Remember, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. But instead of that, it would be A equals the first composite number, B equals the second composite number, C equals the third composite number, and so on. So using this cipher, the phrase, the tree of life, has a value of 233. It's no coincidence, in my mind, considering the Hebrew word or phrase connecting with tree of life has a Hebrew standard gematria value of 233. You can see the Hebrew standard cipher off to the right, the Hebrew letters representing tree of life. You got to forgive my pronunciation. I had some trouble finding this, but the transliteration is something like this, ha-Hayyim. And that in Hebrew letters equals 233. And remember, with the English Composite cipher, the tree of life equals 233. Now, this is tricky, but I think there's something to it. We're talking about a transliteration, so you're going to find several different spellings of ha-Hayyim, but you can definitely find this one. It's the name of famous synagogue, and spelled out like this, ETZHAHAYYYIM, using the English Composite cipher that has a value of 233. 233 is a prime number. I could go down a rabbit hole with that. There is something we'll leave it for the comments section, but we're going to talk about how it's a Fibonacci number, and we're going to talk about how it's the 13th Fibonacci number, and a few words that have a 13 value. So in the keypad cipher, God and Adam both equal 13. It's believed that Adam was the first man, and in the Bible it says God created man in his own image. So God equals 13 with the keypad cipher, and Adam equals 13, keypad cipher. A couple more for you. The word rib with that same keypad cipher equals 13, and that's significant because God created Adam in his own image, and then God created Eve from the rib of Adam. The word Eve with the reverse reduction cipher equals 13. So that's a notable alignment. Even though it's a different cipher, I just think it's very significant that God equals 13, Adam equals 13, rib equals 13, all in the same cipher. And then we have this match with Eve equaling 13 in that other cipher, the reverse reduction cipher. And I believe in the keypad cipher, serpent equals the 13th prime number. But I'm going to try to keep this very simple. Now let's talk about the 13th composite number. That's 22, starting from the very first composite number. Remember I showed you that composite's gematria cipher. Now we're looking at the 13th. 13th letter is M, so M in that cipher will be 22. But anyway, the 13th composite number is 22. One of the first things you'll learn about if you look into the Kabbalistic tree of life is the 22 paths. From Wikipedia, it says here, the 22 connecting paths on the tree of life represent the connections between the Sephiroth, or the spheres. Each path is associated with a specific Hebrew letter, tarot card, and a range of meanings and correspondences. So tarot, if you're unfamiliar with tarot, there are 22 trump cards, also known as major arcana. 22, like the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And if you look at the paths, right, there's 22 paths in this Kabbalistic tree of life. If you look at a detailed diagram of the tree of life, you can see that each path has a different Hebrew letter. So we're talking about gematria, letters, numbers. And then you think about the Sephiroth, or the spheres. Notice the big circles there, there's 10 of them. We already talked about the 22 paths representing the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Now we have 10 numbers, or 10 digits. Including the 0, there are 10 unique digits. Because once you get to the double digits, 10 is 1 and a 0, which we already used. God, with the reverse reduction cipher, equals 10. He's the 1 and the 0. The binary. And going along with this 1 and the 0, and we're talking about composite numbers here. You might ask, what are composite numbers? It says here, in math, composite numbers can be defined as numbers that have more than 2 factors. So, if a number is not prime, it's a composite number. The only exceptions are 1 and 0. Look at the telephone's keypad. Which buttons that contain a digit do not contain letters of the 1 and the 0. You see here how this works. Look at the alphanumeric phone keypad layout. The keypad contains 10 digits, including the 0. Notice which buttons contain letters and numbers. The buttons 1 and 0 have no letters. I'm certain this is the standard. Buttons 2 through 9 all contain letters. Remember, with gematria, letters are numbers. And when I saw the 1 and the 0, I thought of 10. And when I saw the 2 through 9 that do contain letters, I thought of Genesis 2:9, which is about the biblical tree of life. It's the first mention of the tree of life in the Bible. Genesis 2:9. 29 is the 10th prime number. God equals 10, reverse reduction. But God has this connection with the 29th prime number in a couple of different ways. Now, first off to the left, you can see I have the English composites example here with Elohim, a name for God used frequently in the Hebrew Bible. The transliteration Elohim, Elohim, with the composite cipher equals 109, which is the 29th prime, using the reverse caps mixed cipher. That's a case-sensitive cipher. Capital letters make a difference here. Capital G, which it's often seen as, capital G, God, equals 109. And it's worth repeating. 109 is the 29th prime. 29 is the 10th prime. And God equals 10. Reverse reduction. Look, I'm not saying that God is in your phone, per se. I mean, I suppose if you believe in God, God could be everywhere. But there's something to this keypad layout. There's something to the idea that they're putting this cipher in our faces. Every time you dial a phone, I don't mean when you press speed dial, someone's phone number in a speed dial, when you actually type out a phone number. There's letters attached to most of those numbers. So there's television commercials that, 1-800-GET-CASH. Or maybe there's a religious thing, 1-800-CALL-GOD or something. When you want to reach out to someone by phone, often you'll type a number into the keypad, and those numbers are often attached to letters. This is a topic for another video, but real quick, you ever look at the solfeggio frequencies, the 9 well-known frequencies? They represent the numbers in the columns of the telephone's keypad. 147, you see the 174 hertz, 417 hertz, 741 hertz. Look at the middle column, 258. You have the 285 hertz, 528 hertz, 852 hertz. Look at the column off to the right, 369 like Tesla, 396 hertz, 639, and 963. It all come back to sound.